Good morning. It is 5:30 in Berlin. I've been awake since 2 a.m. I think. Let's see. It's our apartment in Seelow Heights, and it's a classic overcast Berlin morning. Pretty chilly. Probably about, I don't know, maybe 10 degrees, maybe a bit more. So today we're going to get a car. Just packing up all my stuff here now. Getting everything ready to go pick our rental car up from the airport. Then we're driving about an hour and 15 minutes east of Berlin to a small village called Seelow. And basically there's an old battlefield on the Seelow Heights, which means the Seelow Heights, which was basically the last defensive position before the Battle of Berlin. We had about 100,000 Germans defending against over 1 million Russian soldiers. So it was a pretty intense battle that marked the beginning of the Battle of Berlin, which also was quite a savage, for lack of a better term, apocalyptic battle. So yeah, we're going to go pick the car up. We're going to catch the train soon, pick the car up, and yeah, we're going to get driving there. Got the good old sparkling water. It's a German classic. Got to make sure the water you're getting is still sparkling first. If you don't like sparkling water, there's plenty of it here. Yep. One bag. Two. So yeah, gotta go wake Zach up and get going. Get out to Zach's level 3. Aye. What do you reckon the temperature is? What do you reckon the temperature is? 15? 12 degrees maybe. So we just took a wrong train before, so Zach's gonna find out where the right one is. Yeah. Flughafen. Kaffee und Essen. What the hell, this looks a little bit different. Nice though. Wow. Alright. What I'll do. Also. Not a bad little rocket ship.
Yes, so it won't do coffee.
So it's a nice overcast day on the highway.
Typical Germany.
Yeah.
Just Stop the car. Oi. No speed limits in Germany either.
On this highway there is, but in certain areas there won't be.
It's like a really good.
But I'm like, you can go first. She's like, no. I'm like,
No, you can edit that.
yeah.
It's Easter this weekend, so we got some Easter shockies. Chocobons.
Just here now at the museum. This is the main road of Seelow, where the Russians come up. Some things from the war. It's a 76mm cannon. 152mm howitzer. On the first day of the Battle of the Seelow Heights, it was like 1.25 million shells were fired on the first day, all along here. So it would have been a lot of explosives coming down. This is a Russian Katyusha rocket launcher. The Germans called them Stalin's organs. They would just absolutely pound an area. That's the infamous Russian T-34. Easily mass-produced from the war. Probably one of the most infamous Russian tanks from the war, actually, just because of how mass-produced they were and how many of them were made, and they could just send heaps of them into defences. And because of how many of these were, you know, being sent into cities, and at the end of the war, the Germans made what was called Panzerfaust, which is a short, shoulder-fired rocket that was a good answer for these to take them out. And they could easily be used by women and children. You could easily handle them, but the problem is you would have to get up pretty close to the tank to get a good hit on it. Within like 30 to 60 meters, I think, was their effective range. And when you stand next to this here, it kind of puts into perspective like the bravery you would need to kind of run up it here to fire the rocket there. But also, the other hard thing with the Panzerfaust is when you fire it, it will give away your position, and because you're so close, chances are there'll be more of these or some Russians around there. So it was definitely a dangerous game. These fog lights are pretty interesting. So before the battle started, obviously the Russians' plan was, when they were coming across the Oder Brook down there, which I'll show you soon, was that they would have, I can't remember how many of these lights they had, but they had heaps. And basically their goal was to shine all these lights at the heights, so that when they were advancing across the Oder Brook to the positions up here, the lights would blind the German defenders. But because of the massive shelling before that they did, the pre-bombardment, all the dust in the air actually had the opposite effect. When the light went on there, it actually would shine back and blinded them. The Germans could see them coming, so it actually backfired. So out here, this is the Oderbrook. This is the main road coming up into the defences that the Russians came. So that road down there is the main road up to the whole Seelow Heights defensive. So you can imagine this whole area, just an absolute wave of tanks and soldiers coming up towards the heights. And this is the center point of where all the Germans were defending, up on this natural ridge. The plan of the defense was put in charge by General Gotthard Heinrichi. He was very good at coming up with defensive plans, so he was put in charge of this entire defensive battle. But out there on the Oderbrook, the Germans flooded all this land out here. So they flooded it all to make all the tanks get bogged down when the Russians should come across. But it's just crazy. Like, you can just you can imagine putting yourself in the shoes of the German defender here. You know, after years of being on the retreat from Russia, 100,000 of them across here, most of them a few veterans from the campaign, like the earlier Russian campaign, but a lot of like young conscripts and people with not that much combat experience. You can imagine the morning when they wake up and the first bombardment that happened, which actually the first line was out in the floodplains, in the Oderbrook, and the Russians actually bombed that first. So the Germans had decided to pull everyone back into the second line, and the first line caught the most of the shelling. The Russians advanced up here, as you can see from the thing as well, but it was very costly for them. I mean, just a perfect view down at where they were coming, but at the end of the day they had over 1 million men, and the Germans had just over 100,000. So that's where we are right here. Just yesterday, or the other day, was actually the anniversary. So 3 days ago, on the 16th of April, is exactly when this battle happened. Yeah, it's actually the battle all those years ago in 1945 on this day as well was still happening. So this is exactly how everything would have been looking. The coolness of the air, you know, this is exactly how things would have been looking, except obviously all these trees weren't there. It would have been blown away. The amount of shells that came down. But it's pretty cool to be here in the same time of the year that it actually happened as well. I came here last year and it was about a month before it is now in time. Old mate's here to commemorate the battle too. So now we're going to travel about 16 minutes south. I've found on Google Maps, looking down further down the heights, there's some trenches and where some shells have actually gone off. You can see the pock marks in the ground, so I really want to go have a look in there and see if we can, well, just sit in the trenches and have another point of view. So let's get going. Also see out there the heights stretching out that way and then out that way. Now we're heading down the road that they would have came up, so we can cut a right and coming up to the town of Mall now. Okay, so now we're a little bit further south of the town of Seelow, at the other side of the heights, where from Google Maps Shows there being quite a lot of trenches here, so see over on this hill down here, you can actually see where shells have landed. You can see the shells where they've landed. Crazy. You can just imagine being a Russian soldier, even just running up here. Just no cover. Machine guns shooting at you, mortars, anti-tank guns. Look at that. There's always the thought in your head walking through here when you know over 1 million bloody shells got fired the first day. Just wonder what's still in the ground. If I could find, it's that shell hole, if I could find something on the ground, it would probably make my year. That would be pretty cool. Some sort of empty shell casing or anything really. Oh, look at the size of that. Hey mate, how big he is. That's sick. You can actually see here the remnants of a trench. Just running down through here. Look at this. Wow. That'd have to be from a shell that landed. And down there. Here too. Down here you can see an old trench line too. There you go. You can see it running up there. Up here. Down. Way around this feature here. Comes up there. You can see how they're still zagged trenches when they're dug. Which basically, if you throw a grenade in there or a bomb goes off in there, it can stop the shrapnel or just from travelling up in one straight direction. Okay, so we can see here. Oops. Can't really see that. There's a lot down there. So I'm going to walk up there, see if we can't find some more trenches. I mean, look at this. This is just perfect terrain for a defensive battle. It's crazy to imagine what was going on even on this day, all those years ago. The noise, chaos, it's just absolutely, it's mesmerizing being here for me. I mean, even if anyone's ever played Call of Duty 5, you know, you'll know this place from the campaign of it. Just coming up on this hill now. Saw there was 2 little dugouts on there from maps. What if I could find like a shell casing or something like that, I'd seriously be that chuffed. Got to be one laying around somewhere. Here's a trench right here, right on the top of this feature. See, it cuts through here. And all the way around the front there. Back up there. Just here. Imagine sitting here. Hundreds of Russians coming up here. It's crazy. Would have been such a harrowing feature to assault for the Russians, like, God. Obviously, back in the day, these trenches weren't this shallow, you know, just over time, but they would have been quite deep. But it just shows you that they still remain in the ground today, like scars of the earth from, you know, significant things that have happened, such as when two absolute titans clash. Here, people have been here with the metal detectors, so I can guarantee you there were some bullets laying in here, some shell casings or whatever. You find that when I was at last year at the Herkenwald battlefield as well, you could see those little things in the ground there where people will go with their little metal detectors and find whatever in the ground. There'd still be so much stuff in the ground here, you know, like the amount of explosions that are going off, it buries stuff. Oh, look at this. Wow. That's a shell hole. That would probably be from a 155 or whatever those big howitzers were. Look at that. That is insane. Wow. That was crazy. That's awesome. I think I'm gonna go check out that feature, and then there's a lot of trenches up the top there I'm gonna go have a look at. So let's head up there. These little hills are pretty steep. Kind of might have been another little shell hole there. What do we got up here? Little spur. Shoes are absolutely drenched because of the contents of the dew in the grass here. This is probably where a little position was in the dugout. Looks like we've got another bit of a trench here, running down through there. Massive hill over that side I want to have a look at. Geez, I wonder what lives down in there. Okay. Right, let's climb up this one. This one's even steeper than the last one. I feel like a bit of a mountain goat at this point, but this one's pretty good. It's definitely pretty steep. Let's see what's up the top here though. Cool thing to ponder here is how this trench comes down here, runs to the edge of the spur, and you've got kind of where it opens up, and then you got the kind of walls but no front there, so this might have been an anti-tank position or something that was obviously blown up from the front, you know, targeted. That's why there's no front bit here, because obviously this would be a perfect spot. You've got, even for a machine gun, you've got perfect enfilade fire. I mean, these points on the heights here would have been obviously set up with, you know, your machine guns, your pack guns, everything that kind of would have stopped tanks and put a slow down to the infantry and stuff. So these would have been massive targets for shelling, mortars, and just the tanks, the amount of tanks that were here. I've been having a bit of a scratch around. Be pretty cool to find a cartridge. Anyway, I'm gonna go up here and see another spot that I saw on maps that had some cool trenches. Maybe we might find something there. Little stampede over there. There's a trench up here actually, and this is pretty cool because down there you'd have your lines down there, your front positions. And up here, look at the view you get. Like the bird's eye view from up here, the whole battle space. It's phenomenal. These fellas over here are a bit noisy. That's most of those trenches. They continue down there, but it's still really cool. I think, like, I'm very glad. Oh, there's something down there too. Very glad this time that I've come back and spent a bit more time looking around. I mean, it's just phenomenal to stand here and see everything. Like, just kind of draw your own imagination of what happened all those years ago. You got a trench there too. Yeah, like this, especially this battlefield, like this is like the last offensive before Berlin, the Battle of Berlin. This was the last rock in the road before the capital of the Reich at the time. So despite having only 100,000 men, they really put up a fight against the massive tidal wave of Soviets that were there. Both sides endured a lot of losses. It was, yeah, obviously a very terrible battle. Time for dinner. Is it here?
Well, it's supposed to be.